The more opportunities we put ourselves out to mentor others, serve others, help create other successes, you count for the day, you kind of look backwards and say, you know what, this was pretty good. I'm going to go sleep and I'm going to try to do it again tomorrow. Yeah. It's that simple.
You're listening to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. What's going on, my friends? Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, Create Your Career. This is conversation number 107, and I'm so excited that you're here with me for yet another episode. My guest today is the CEO of OSD, which is an organization that helps veterans. Has helped over 900,000 veterans. Yes, 900,000 veterans. He is none other than Glenn Banton. And I connected with him on Instagram when he listened to one of the former podcasts. And I just think it's so cool. Yet again, Instagram, social media for the win. It's a tool and it's how you use it. We talked about a lot of stuff today, but obviously learning how to overcome and adapt a lot of the obstacles that he's had in all of his career changes, all the ADD things that he's doing because he's involved in so many things. If that sounds like you, then maybe it is a good thing, and Glenn explains why in today's episode. Remember, you can hear this episode and all the other conversations and the contemplations. The contemplations are only on audio or on your favorite podcast app, and you can find me on Instagram at Kristof Lewis. So without further ado, welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
It's an absolute pleasure. I love connecting with people, and we were on the phone. I don't even know how it was. It was a couple months ago, maybe now. I'm not really sure.
About right.
Yeah, but we connected on Instagram, and just the rest is history. It's just, I am never every day I'm blown away by the connections I'm able to make on social media, and I'm just such a huge advocate of it for those reasons. It's just a tool and it's how we use it. But man, like I said, thank you so much for your time today, and it's great to get you on here. I'm really honored. You're doing amazing things out there, and I can't wait to dive deeper into it. But for those people that maybe don't know who you are, let's just knock out like a quick short version of who you are and what are you doing.
Yeah, that's a darn good thing. I'll see if I can keep it short. First off, again, thanks for having me. And I think it's worth noting too. I think it was I caught your Tim Kennedy interview was what all pointed together. And I think the lesson learned here to anybody listening is reach out, actually message people. Yes. That's how we connect. And it doesn't matter whether it's somebody like you or I or somebody that I know a lot of people probably think you're unreachable. Obviously you are, because we're just interested in connecting with other folks. But describe me in a nutshell, I guess. I'm a byproduct of essentially adult ADD, which again you kind of read between the lines on that. My entire life's just really been about figuring out how I can do something that's meaningful, that's interesting, keeps my attention, which is challenging. But that's essentially covered this entire gambit from, having full-time jobs as, an engineer in the technology space when I was in high school, and, classes at MIT. I graduated from business school in, 3 years from the University of Connecticut, while also being a part of the men's basketball team. And then ... it just kind of gets crazier from there. And really what it's about is, again, over the years, I've found that, we're a byproduct of, other people taking risks on us is really what it's about, as well as our circumstances. And, that's essentially led me through all these different roles to where today, I'm the CEO of OSD. I'm a mentor for, Google's VetNet and Bunker Labs, and on the board of Psych Armor, and with some of these other ones, Small Business Administration, Veteran Business Affairs. And all that comes down to, again, every single one of those opportunities was another person, saw something in me. I've been able to develop I think a moderately well-spoken voice in these spaces that's respected, and then just be able to, back up what I'm talking about with actual action and put a face to what's happening. I mean, that's what is at the end of the day. Like, where's the actions that follow or even lead ahead of the words?
Yeah, no, I love everything about that. And you're right. You listed off like this plethora of things that you are doing, and that's like literally what it is. I think it's so cool how involved you are with everything, and the fact that you ended it with you're backing up the things that you're doing with actions. And I think that's so important. On my contemplation episodes, if you guys listen to those, where it's just me, I literally end every single episode with saying, like, you have to act, like, you have to do these things. Like, I don't care if you listen to all the best podcasts, read all the best books. I say the same thing every single time. But if you can do all that stuff, you can have these conversations, you can meet all the people that we're talking about online on social media. But if you don't actually go out there and act, like, if you want to help people and you don't actually go out there and help people, none of it matters. So I love that you're getting out there and you're doing that. Where do you think that passion for helping other people stems from?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it, a lot of it's my upbringing, and I'll admit it's my faith. I mean, I truly believe, we're put on this planet to serve others simplistically, and I don't think that's just a religious viewpoint. I think a lot of people can kind of agree with that. You know, I just have a different, set that kind of tempers that a little bit. But especially more recently, and you and I have talked about it a bit, I think it even comes back to, my wife being diagnosed with brain cancer, almost 8 years ago. And thankfully she's still with us, and there's lots of challenges. I mean, not only dealing with that, but the symptoms, she has a bunch of other diseases that have popped up by having brain cancer, many of which are challenging. And a lot of her symptoms are things like Alzheimer's and dementia related. And she's only in her 30s. I'm in my upper 30s, and I've got a high schooler and a middle schooler. So it's a different dynamic. And when I look at each day, there's already enough challenges that are happening there. And really, I think one of the just a fundamental truth is one of the best ways to help yourself is to help others. I mean, it really is. And I think that's a leap for somebody, for some folks, and even me when I was younger. Not that we're necessarily super self-centered, but we don't understand that reality where actually one of the most self-centered things you can do is serve other people, because it comes back to you. But all that being said, on a day-to-day basis, what I'm trying to look for is even if things suck today because of what's going on in my household, there's still lots of positives come out there. And the more opportunities we put ourselves out to mentor others, serve others, help create other successes. Again, you count for the day, you kind of look backwards, you see, this was pretty good. I'm going to go sleep and I'm going to try to do it again tomorrow. Yeah. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that attitude, that mindset of just waking up and doing the best you can do every day. That's one of the best pieces of advice that my dad gave me. And he even said something similar, like, I didn't fully comprehend that mindset when I was younger, like helping other people and all of that. But like literally just getting up and doing the best I can is if you approach it with that mindset, like I think that's just going to set your trajectory for that day, which is going to set your trajectory for the week, for the month, for the rest of your life, if you do that every single day. And that includes everything you just discussed of bettering yourself and then helping other people. And you're right. It's this weird, like selfish imbalance of if you're helping so many people and it comes back to you. And it's so cool how that works. And I love everything about that. How did you get into like specifically what you're doing now? Like where, like with OSD, how did you create that? And maybe prefacing that with what did you do before that, and what led you kind of to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, first off, I'm not the founder of the organization. I was actually brought on, I guess, probably 5-6 years ago to help grow it. I mean, like many nonprofits, and especially those in the veteran space, there's a lot of, hobby nonprofits, I'd refer to them, and, well-intentioned, certainly driven by passion. But again, it's like, do you have the business acumen? I think the passion itself is a given. Following the mission is a given. But how do we turn this into a business that, goes and impacts and allows veterans to thrive? So, really, the question that leads up to that is, well, why veterans? I'm a civilian myself. I do have some military in my family. If I had to kind of boil down even the relationship with a lot of the vets I work with and have mentored for years, I'd say it's, number one, lack of tolerance for BS in the workplace. Every job I've been at, I want to show up, I want to do work, and then I want to go home. And I'll do the same thing the next day. But I'm pretty simple. Pay me X to do Y or better, If it doesn't work out, let's have a discussion. Maybe we part ways. I'm good to go, which is a real, very old school traditional way to look at those relationships. And that's not a part of most professional culture these days. I think that's one of those pieces where, whether it can be narrated that way, I think a lot of the veterans I work with professionally kind of see that challenge. And it's like, how do I navigate this weird culture? But then, across time from essentially before I was even out of high school, so this is like obviously pre 9/11, there's these these checkpoints along the way where there's specific veterans that, impacted me. And, one back when I was in high school, and again, I had a job as an engineer at a big software company, Desert Storm veteran. And I could just tell, again, things are a little bit different in his mind. And again, Greater War on Terror, like that was the last, group of guys and gals that, had any sort of combat experience. And again, in the office environment, it was just, you could tell he just wanted to get work done. He wasn't antisocial. He was like, not all those disgruntled vet things, just wanted to get work done. And so we developed a friendship. And I just kind of became almost this filter between, the two worlds, which is cool. Fast forward a little bit further, this is like probably 2002, 2003, we start deploying, a lot of the National Guardsmen. And some of these were my coworkers, and it's like one day they're a hardware technician and the next day they're over fixing satellites under indirect fire. And that just was like, that's crazy. I mean, now it seems normal, but like, that's wild. And, you have lots of those types of stories. But, outside of that, obviously while I've been working with veterans individually, I've been in a number of different companies, probably the best of which to exemplify what I do was a company called Chaotic Moon. They were acquired by Accenture a number of years ago. And, my clients and my projects ranged from helping with smart weapon systems for various government contractors to, on the other hand, the precursor to the Movies Anywhere platform, which is a Disney product. I was part of the team that designed and built the first iteration where Bob Iger was our, so again, just like, let's call it ADD at the end of the day. I'm no smarter than anybody else. I just like interesting things. I love people, and interests change. And so the better you can set yourself up to have relationships with others that understand that. Every opportunity I've had is because I started to lose interest in one thing. And then, a buddy's like, yo, dude, I got this cool thing. Hey, can I take care of my family? Check. All right, next, let's go.
No, I love all about that. And you may or may not know, I can't always remember who knows what, but because I just said, now, I moved down here. Well, why did I move down here? Because I had my first job post-military. It was good. It was better than I could have ever imagined. And I really did like working there. And it was an IT as well as an engineer. And it wasn't ultimately what I wanted to do. And I knew I may not get to where I want to go in the next step, but it's going to get me closer. And I left it. And I do have some of that, interests do change. And I do think people do change as well. And I think it's just, if you really want to do something, do it. And that's like a huge pillar that this podcast stands on, is go after it. Like, understand that, interests do change. People do change. Like, you can go do these things and you just got to put in that hard work. Like you were saying, you have to do that. And as long as you understand that and you have that cocktail of whatever you're mixing right there, like, you're going to make things happen. And the fact that you mentioned probably a couple times, like, relationships, and that you love working with people. And I just got off the phone with another conversation earlier and they mentioned that too. So it's like no secret that I love seeing what comes up in all these conversations. Like, you're 107. Like, so what's another reoccurring topic is relationships are important. Understand how to articulate yourself, build relationships with people, network with people, help people, and all of these things are just what makes a good human being. And I agree too, no matter what your faith is or your lack of faith, the fact that helping other people is a part of what I agree, helping is so important. It's part of humanity. That's what we're here for, and because if we didn't do that, like, what the hell are we doing here if we're not helping each other? It's not just a rat race by ourselves, So I love that. I absolutely love that you're doing all that. And I think it's really interesting that kind of one of the questions that popped up in my head while you were talking is engineer to CEO. I think that's completely different. One is like, you're an engineer, you are troubleshooting, you're a technician, you're doing, single contributing work, and then you're leaving. but CEO is big picture. It's a lot of different things, but how did you shift trajectories and like, how did you go from one to the other? Cause it's not a single straight line, right?
Yeah, I don't think any I've done. I'm wondering if I probably look like I'm wandering around with a blindfold on. If you had to make me into a cartoon character. No, I think it comes down to it's these same themes. I mean, it's
okay.
Once I understood that things are about relationships, and just as importantly, when it comes to knowledge, I mean, knowledge is constantly changing. Some of these fundamental facts, and I say this again, having kids in middle school and high school, the jobs that they're being taught about right now it's irrelevant, because the jobs they're going to have once they get out of school, whatever it is, don't even exist now. And so I think it's that fluidity, where I come back. I mean, probably more common things. I'm a huge fan of the, OODA loop, and just understanding, observe, orient, decide, act as quickly as possible, as fast as possible. And that's really what it's about. So when I jump from, engineer to salesperson to, strategist, to designer, to CEO, to what is it? I'm figuring out how to adapt to a situation I'm in. I'm a part of a team. I'm sometimes the leader. I'm sometimes the follower, but I have a particular point of view that oftentimes is, again, a lot further reaching, because I have just a bizarre set of experiences. And, that example, the one company I worked with that everybody looks at me sideways when I say it, where it's, okay, one side I'm, doing future soldier stuff with DARPA. And then I would hop off, a meeting with that. And I'm talking with Disney or Fox or these different, organizations. They're like, what is that? What does that mean? I said, well, it's just people and problems, people, process, problem solving. It's that. And, and then I put the kicker. I said, probably the coolest thing that I can say I was responsible for during that job is I brought, Northrop Grumman, one of their military innovation teams, together with Disney Imagineering, and they did a mind share, or whatever they call those swaps, and I got to be a part of it. Wow. That's so weird. Why would Disney do this? I said, because it's a bunch of smart innovation people, and some of them just happen to be getting paid by Disney, and some just happen to get paid by Northrop. It's just people, process, and problem solving. So anybody listening, the thing I keep really hammering home is it's taking the personal responsibility to realize that life is not as rigid as you think. Knock off this, I need to go down this path and get from A to Z. It doesn't exist. That's not what it looks like.
And that's another common theme that comes up so much is that and it's fun. It's like, as I was growing up, I don't know why it was instilled in my head or why I thought these thoughts, but I thought that's the way it had to be. I thought I had to have shit figured out. And it's become a blessing that I haven't had things quote unquote figured out, because then what really is figured out. And I think as long as you have that attitude of my interests change, it's okay to change. It's okay to pursue what you want. What really makes me happy? Let's go do that. And as long as, like you said, you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of your family, does it really matter? No. If you're happy and you're making your family happy and you're able to take care of them, that's what matters. And I think one of the most important things you've said in this latter part of the conversation so far is figuring out how to adapt. Now, because you could probably have all these plans, and it kind of goes in conjunction with what you said earlier. You have all these plans, these are what I want to do, A, B, C, D, Z. These are all the things I want to do in my life, and it's not going to happen, because once you start in motion, it's changing. You start going and it's changing. So it's I was giving somebody advice earlier on how to start a podcast, and he's like, how do I start? And I was like, just start. You need to go out there and you need literally 3 pieces of gear maybe, and then just start recording, figure out your style, figure out what people want to hear, but most importantly, what do you want to talk about? And that's what matters, is starting. And it just seems like this is a common theme within your life too, is that you are just going after things and you're starting things. You're not afraid to try things at all, and to me, that is really cool. Out of everything that we've just discussed, is there a most interesting problem or something that has maybe come up that you've had to overcome, maybe an obstacle or something that something unique in your positions?
I mean, the one thing, and I'm actually going to say 2 of them. One of them is factoring in, with the health situation of my family. I'm a full-time caregiver on top of everything else. Yeah. And So
yeah, man.
in that, I mean, you talk about being agile and having to move.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what my day is going to look like. Not just the normal. I don't know what my day is going to look like. I don't know. I mean, I might have to, in the middle of a meeting, leave, take a call and leave. And now, mind you, it's made it so I actually have much more transparent, deeper relationships with people I work with. And, when I meet new partners or, new folks I'm going to work with, I'm really quick into hey, just so you know, this is what my life looks like. I'm sharing this with you because I want to develop a relationship. And if you don't know and understand this, it's not going to work. But I'd say, one of the biggest things still comes back to it's people and relationships in and of itself is a challenge. I've been in numerous companies and had to be responsible for, hiring and firing for various reasons. Sometimes it's, legal and ethical. Otherwise, other times it's just lack of performance. And that stuff sucks. I mean, we're still humans at the end of the day. And even though someone might deserve it, it hurts. It really does. And I'm not trying to say it to look for sympathy for myself. I'm more saying that to others that are like, there's going to be somebody tomorrow that needs to go tell somebody they no longer have a job. And that sucks. But I was reading in one book, and I wish I could quote what it is. I'm sure it's on your list of books you read a week. But one is talking about lovingly setting someone free. And you could probably look that up, Google it, because it's a very common phrase that this particular author uses. But I remember when I read that, probably about a year and a half ago, I was like, you know what? That's not, it's not trying to twist and spin firing somebody, because it sucks. I mean, you're impacting your family, but at the end of the day, you are doing somebody a disservice by allowing them to continue in a role in which they cannot succeed, especially if you give opportunities to adjust. So I'd say that's the toughest part, especially in being, a CEO, is as things grow, you're the lightning rod. I have a different, a completely different respect for even the president, whether it's Trump or Obama. And I'm purposely picking both of those because you got, two opposing viewpoints. But at the end of the day, you're a lightning rod for everything, no matter what. And it's like, if your organization is near something, guess who gets all the flack, good or bad. And that is certainly draining. But at the same time, it kind of comes back just reminding, I guarantee for every one of those lightning rod moments, there's probably at least 1,000 positive things. But, we have this natural tendency at humans to only want to focus on the one negative thing that we can't actually fix, as opposed to the 1,000 that are like, you know what, that's awesome. That's why we need to do this.
Well, that's like why I need to get better at practicing gratitude, because I talk about it a lot. But like for whatever reason, I'll be downtrodden and a little bit depressed, or just what reason do I really have? And I start thinking about my family's here. I have a daughter, like all these things. I literally have a roof over my head. Like, so these things, and I'm like, you got nothing to complain about right now. So let's put a smile on your face. And I don't know if this is the book you're talking about, but I am in the process. The book of the week is The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. And I've read books by him before, and it's actually turns out to be one of the best self-help books that I've read. And he actually talks a little bit about what you just said. So I don't know. He's talking about hiring and firing people and just letting people go, but giving them opportunities to course correct before you do that. So he does mention that in here, and I actually highly suggest this to anybody, whether you want to get into real estate or not, because the first part of this book is so good with mindset. But no, you're absolutely right on all of that. And I think a lot of people, like, people's lives are so different, right? And the fact that you're doing everything we just discussed, plus being a full-time caregiver, and you have kids, man. Like, you are not only just a father, you are, and you're a husband, but I think it speaks a lot towards you, because you, like, every time I talk to you, every time I see your content, every time, like, whatever, like, whenever, and I know there are some dark times and there's some sad times, but at the same time, like, I can tell, and from the first time we spoke on the phone, you're very genuine about it, and you have this great mindset about it, and you understand, like, that these are things that are happening, and you fully embrace, how am I going to react to this? Because I'm not you. I'm not in your position with your family, but I can guarantee you, when we have things happen in my family, when things are bad, and we've had some scary things that I haven't even talked about, then if I'm freaking out, the rest of the family's going to freak out. So if I'm a strong character, and even though these things affect me, but if I am positive and I fully embrace that and I understand that these things are happening, how am I going to react to it? It helps the family. It really does help the family. And that's what I can see in you. And that's one of the things I really do like about you, if I'll be honest.
No, I appreciate that. Well, and the thing is, I think there's a big theme. I'm always trying to interweave in this. I mean, I believe, the world needs more strong father figures as well. Mm-hmm. And, that's, again, I hate that that's kind of this like touchy subject. No, the world needs strong men in a traditional strong men, not a, hey, woman, why aren't you wearing your polka dot dress and where's my dinner? I just can't. Like, it's not that. It's being an example. It's being, a rock. And again, as we have the ability to self-reflect on this. I mean, I was watching, one of these silly game shows. I think Dax was the host of it. And one of the contestants, they always bring people on the show that like had some just major thing happen that they helped out with. And it was this kid that I think was like an Eagle Scout or something that helped save people when the train crashed up in Seattle a number of years ago. And Dax says like, hey, like what was going through your mind? And again, I know you and a lot of service members can kind of think about this specifically in certain instances. He goes, it was scary. Like, what made you run towards that, especially as an age? And he goes, well, I was thinking about it in my head. I'm like, you know what? I'm scared, but they're more scared. So I need to be strong. And I was like, that is the most profoundly simple way to look at this, where, again, I look at my family, especially as a father, having to be a role model to kids.
I love that.
It's that simple. Like, I'm not trying to hide it. I have cried plenty of tears in front of my family. Yeah. I've broken down. I mean, like, I do not hide that stuff. And at the same time, that's the letting the steam out of the kettle, moments. The rest of it, it's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I got to be able to stand up and show them what that resilience looks like. Because guess what? When they get older, life's going to get tough, and it's all about context and perspective. My tough day versus somebody else's, like, I don't think they're comparable. Your life might be, all intents and purposes, simple, and you're going for your PhD and you fail a test. Like, that might be the worst time in your life. And like, that's not any worse than if somebody lost a family member, in my opinion, because that's your worst moment for your life with what you understand. And I think it's the context of the more we can understand about others, it comes all the way back to relationships. I mean, then we can have deeper relationships. We can do more interesting things. We can do more business with one another. Again, it's just all interwoven.
No, you are absolutely right. It is. And it's like, that's why I say, like, and I hate, because social media clearly can be used. I'm such a huge advocate, like I said, but it can be clearly used for bad things as well. And I see people comparing, like, what's worse, like my tragedy or yours. And I'm always like, you never can do that. I've had people comment on some of my things, and obviously, like you said, the one lightning rod moment stays with you. And I am remembering a specific comment, and I'm like, you cannot compare tragedies, like, by any means. So you're absolutely right. And I hope people do that. And especially with social media being such a big part of our lives, you need to just understand that what you're seeing is what you're seeing, and that's it. Like, unless it has directly to do with your life and your family's life, then you need to worry about it and you need to do something about it. But you are right. And I think it goes back to say, like, when you start relationships with people, you said, I'm upfront, I'm honest, and you have that same mindset with your family, right? So you're upfront and you're honest. Like you said, you don't want to hide that stuff from your kids. Like, who are they're gonna grow up to be soft, and some of the things we do see. But if you're honest, and it's okay to cry. It's great to be a strong family figure, but I've cried too. It's really tough at times, and it's not an issue. And I think if you find that balance, your respective balance on how to be that strong individual, how to be a strong father, how to be a strong mother, how to be a strong parent, spouse, whomever in your life, but also have that humility and understand your emotions and be okay to embrace them. And I think it's totally fine to be on all ends of the spectrum, and you're doing exactly that. So I love all your answers there. And obviously you've had a lot of high education as well, but you're the type of individual that is a huge advocate of continued education, whether it be relationships that you're building or whatever you're doing, reading books and things that we were talking about. Is there like a favorite? I'm curious because I always enjoy speaking with you, but is there a way that you try to stay on top of your game, ahead of the game? Like, how do you do that, or what's your favorite way to do that and stay educated?
It's definitely reading. And I think I've always followed the mentality of, it takes like this much effort to be the smartest person in most rooms. And then when you juxtapose that against the, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room. So if you're constantly living both of those, I think it causes you to seek out knowledge. And then when the expert actually shows up, shut up, befriend them, and learn. Because I think that's actually what's been so interesting, what I've seen over the years, especially being in the technology space. It's like the more information is accessible, the dumber we've gotten in the moment, right? So, and yes, somebody's like, well, I don't need to memorize all that trivia. Well, yes, you don't technically need to, but the ability to know that actually makes you more agile in a conversation, probably makes you more interesting, probably makes more people want to be around you. You take those things down. So, I enjoy reading books. I'm definitely, if I had to pick, type of medium, I love actual physical books still. I get distracted if I try to read them on an iPad. I love seeing the stacks of books in the background. Like, I want to have a library. I love that mentality. Me too. So you can share it with somebody, because, you've referenced a couple books a couple times here, but I love the feeling of, even if I'm out at coffee or have a meeting with somebody and we hit a topic and it's something in my mind comes to a book, next time I see them, I'll just give them the book, or I'll find the address and just send it from Amazon.
Cool, man.
I mean, what?
That's cool.
Book's $15 to change somebody's life. Write a note in the front of it.
You're so right. You're so right.
Yeah. And think about it. And when it comes to, giving something to somebody that's really going to change their life and for the better, that's it. And then it's telling them, because again, oh no, you don't have to do that. You're right, I don't have to. But all I ask you is like, hey, if you feel bad about this, when you're done, give it to somebody else. Again, it goes back to that kind of cheesy pay it forward.
It's so true though. Like, that's one of those awesome cliches, Yeah.
I love a cliche that used to make me probably want to gag 10 years ago. And now I find myself saying it 6 times a day. It's a heck of a thing as we at least pretend to mature as we get older.
Yeah. Yeah. If you so choose to, if you so choose to, because I'm also major on, I've had teenagers on here. I've had people, well older than that, and age doesn't matter. It depends what you subscribe to. But I even wrote this down while you were talking, because I love that idea of like just sending somebody a book or handing somebody a book and saying pay it forward. And dude, the stuff that's cheesy is like usually pretty cool if you utilize it again correctly. Yeah. So I think that's incredible, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with you today. And like you said, and I touched on it, like your honesty, man, like your honesty and your passion for helping other people and yourself, and you're so clearly doing that. And I feel like we barely even touched the surface of a lot of things, but at the same time, we were able to dive deep into a lot of things. And you definitely set into a good example. I think you mentioned that I can't remember what specifically, but you did mention at one point setting a good example, and you're clearly doing that. And even me looking at you right now saying this, like it sets a good example for me. So I do appreciate that there are people out there like you, because like you said, shut up and learn. Like if somebody else is in the room, like I want to listen, and that's selfishly, again, speaking of that, like these podcast episodes are for me too. I want to learn from people. Sure. These are questions that lead to answers that I want to learn. So where can people find more about OSD, find more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So OSD, best place is weareosd.org. You'll be able to find a bunch of stuff there. And heck, probably actually be seeing a new website by the time you hear this live.
Yeah,
we're getting close. So love the, hey, new website's coming forever. And then for me, I'd say best is you look me up. It's Glenn Banton. That's with a B. Instagram, LinkedIn are probably the best two. And especially if you're looking, again, you probably capture it listening to this. Like, I want to meet other people, like to connect with others. I mean, I've got a lot of life to live ahead of me. I don't want to do it alone, especially professionally. I like having friends. I also realize, like, a friend I have today might not be there tomorrow, because that's another thing that changes. So please reach out. And, if you're looking to get involved in something like, OSD or some of these other organizations, or even something in the same space, just let me know. I just want people to feel like they can, be satisfied and thrive and grow and help impact somebody else.
Man, I love everything about that. All right. Like I said, I'm always so thoroughly appreciative of the time that people give me, especially like, I don't care who it is. Like I really, time is precious, and I'm very appreciative of that. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your night.
Hey, thank you. My pleasure.